All right, series number two, your second division winners, Florida Panthers against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Battle of Florida.
What a series.
I think this,
That's
so
exceptional.
before we even get into this, honestly, I think this worked out in the NHL's favor big time, having a Battle of Florida and also having Leafs Boston, which we'll get to obviously, but those for the NHL, it probably worked out for the best.
Yeah.
Those are two heavy matchups that I think they know they're going to get a lot of eyes on. Anyway, we'll start with the Florida Panthers, Central Atlantic Division winners. Line one, we've got Vladimir Tarasenko, Alexander Barkov, and Sam Reinhart. On line two, we've got Carter Verhaeghe, Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk. Line three, Ito Lusterainen, Anton Lundell, and Evan Rodriguez. And line four, Nick Cousins, Kevin Stenlund, and Jonah Gadjovic. Some of that.
Gadjevich.
Yeah. On defense, we've got Gustav Forsling and Brandon Montour on your first pairing, Nico Mikola and Dmitry Kulikov on your second pairing, and Josh Mahura and Uvis Balinskis on your third pairing. And then in goal we have oh wait, did I say no, sorry, yeah. In goal we have Sergei Bobrovsky and Anthony Stolarz. So
Um, Injury wise, may as well include Aaron Ekblad in the decor because it says he's ready for game one. Oliver Ekman Larson, uh, they said he was injured and then he was just healthy scratch in the last game, so like he might play. So I guess he's injured, but who knows? He was injured and then he just wasn't played when he was healthy again. That's all I have on that. But those are the only two injuries.
all right. And they will be playing against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So in Tampa, line one, we've got Anthony Duclair, Braden Point, and Nikita Kucherov. Line two, Brandon Hagel, Anthony Cirelli, Steven Stamkos. Line three, Michael Es Esimon. I always know how to say it.
Boo! He's the guy that injured Jensen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nicholas Paul and Mitchell Chaffee. And line four, we've got Tanner Jeannot, Tyler Jeannot, remember? Luke Glendening and Connor Sheary. And on defense, our first pairing is Victor Hedman and Darren Radish. Second pairing is Nick Perbix and Eric Chernak. Third pairing is Emil Lilberg and Matt Dumba. And in net, we've got Andrei Vasilevsky and Matt Tompkins.
I mean, may as well. It's just Vasilevsky and Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Jonas Johansson is technically the backup, but he's day to day. And Tyler Mott is also day to day. Miguel Sergachev is out for the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the
His
three
his
injuries.
looked his looked terrible, man.
I did not like watching that
I did
video.
not like it. No. All
All
right, but
right. Starting
Supi,
off.
why don't you start us off? Sure.
Okay, so the thing that I wanted to get into. So for me, after I think I watched the Lightning play the Caps very near the end of the season. It was one of our bigger games. The thing I want to say is Stamkos and Hedman. Those are like my two X factors in the series for the Lightning. They were both extremely bad at 5-on-5. Like I usually don't bring up plus minus, but Stamkos had 40 goals and 80 points, but he's a minus 20, which just doesn't make sense in my head. Hedman also had a lot of points, but both of them were like significantly like over half of their points were on the power play. Where that's why Kucherov was labeled as an MVP candidate, not only because he had 140 points, but because he was the only guy that put up even strength points along with Braden Point. But just the rest of the lineup on Tampa, it was like surprisingly deep, which I didn't anticipate. Um, but then if you look at Florida, it's just I don't know with Ekblad back as well, and how many X Factor players Florida has. I think that their X Factor players are just in a more prime age than Tampa's X Factor players. I think that is going to take a lot from the veterans in Tampa, which they could definitely flip the switch and play way better in the playoffs. and a really good performance by Vasilevsky in order to get past this Florida team.
Yep. So what I'll say is when it comes to Tampa, their core guys still perform this year, which is good to see. I mean, point Stamkos and Kucherov, despite Stamkos's plus minus situation. I mean, he
It's
still
five
got
on five play.
goals. Sorry?
It's mostly just his 5-on-5 play. He was like insane on the power play.
Yeah. And then obviously Kucherov had an insane season that I mean, I know I wasn't expecting Kucherov to have that kind of a season this year. I don't know if you guys were, but I was a little bit like not surprised because it's Kucherov, but still kind of like, whoa, Kucherov's really going. So I think if those guys remain strong with their experience and whatnot, I think they can match up against Florida. The big factor that this time I find because they beat Florida 2 seasons ago in round two. The big factor for me is going to be Matthew Tkachuk.
Mm.
Because I don't know, like I know Tampa's been to like three cup finals, they won two cups and all that. I want to see because obviously Kachuk's gonna come in and do what he's gonna do, and I don't know if Tampa's really dealt with that kind of a player in any of their runs so far. I could be wrong. I just don't know if they have. So I don't know. Obviously it's one player, but I want to see, he was a huge factor in the playoffs for them last season. So he's going to come and do his thing and rattle the big guys on Tampa. I don't think at the same time, Reinhardt, like the Florida power play is insane. I think Reinhardt's like 27, 28 power play goals. I think how many of those were assisted by Kachuk himself? Or so I think on the power play,
Yeah.
yeah, on the power play, I think Tampa's gonna have it hard. I think Vasilevsky is gonna have to be huge again, and he had a bit more rest last season after being knocked out by the Leafs. But so maybe he's a bit more fresh. I give the defense edge to Florida because I know there's Hedman and stuff, but like they're a little bit on the end of their time back there. Anyway, go ahead.
Battle of Florida would be very cool to go see. I've considered it. Um, it's close, I think. Like if you're looking at a team that's been good, been successful for a long time, a team that had a really good run last year. They have size on defense. They have annoying forwards on both teams. Um, Both have a good goalie. But yeah, the difference I think being is, like you said, one team's more in their prime years than the other. I really do think it could go either way. It wouldn't shock me. Um, but I think it comes down to goaltending because, Bobrovsky was insane last year. Vasilevsky in certain playoff series has just like never lost 2 games in a row. And if that happens again, we know what's going to happen. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I think, yeah, the biggest factor for me is because they have so much talent at every position is the goaltenders.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, and the thing with Florida too is like Matthew Tkachuk wasn't as good and Florida was still able to produce ridiculously offensively. I think that like Kachuk's, if you're able to get Kachuk off his game, it's not as huge of a deal for Florida anymore because they have so much depth scoring. It really doesn't matter.
And he's
Like,
effective in other ways. Like if he's
yeah,
getting other people off their game and he's off
yeah,
his game, then they have other people that can score. Where if like
yeah.
Kucherov isn't scoring, then that's an issue.
Mhm. So, but that's another thing, right? Like you're gonna have to get guys like Tanner Jeannot and Esamont, whatever his name is, are really gonna have to try to get under Kachuk's skin and take him off his offensive game at least, so they can factor that out at the very minimum. Because then you still like Florida still has guys like Barkov, Reinhardt, Tarasenko, Verhage, Bennett, Lundell, Rodriguez, ton of scoring still, and their offense also comes from their defense in Montour and Ekblad.
And
Uh,
Forsling.
and Forsling, that's what I was talking about. Forsling being underrated is that he put up 40 points, but he's also arguably one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, which is pretty wild to me. He scores like 10 goals a season. But yeah, and I have no idea what's happening with Oliver Ekman-Larsson considering he's a healthy scratch, but I guess we'll see what happens there. That's more experience, I guess.
All right.
Okay, let's
Your
go for
prediction.
predictions. Omar, you had a lot to say on this one, so you go first.
I'm going Florida in 6.
Florida in 7.
I got Florida in what I wrote down. I'll stick with it. Florida in 7.
I would love to I kind of want to say Tampa just to be different because I do think it can happen.
Yeah,
I'll stick
but
with
I already had my my I'm gonna be different.